You obviously don't belong in first class, sir. Flight attendant Brenda Collins stood blocking the aisle, arms crossed defensively, as Ethan Hayes, CEO of a multi-million-dollar aviation firm, held his boarding pass in plain sight. The cramped airplane cabin became an arena where 12 years of airline authority met corporate power she never saw coming. The recycled air grew thick with tension, while whispered conversations rippled through rows of watching eyes. Collins's voice carried across the cabin, amplifying the humiliation with each dismissive word. What followed exposed the deadly intersection of power prejudice and corporate justice. Have you ever been judged based on your appearance before you even spoke a word? If you believe discrimination has no place in 2025, so hit that subscribe button and share this story, because corporate accountability starts with us refusing to stay silent. Ethan Hayes, dressed in a simple gray hoodie and worn jeans, approached row 2A with his boarding pass. The lead flight attendant immediately stepped into his path. "Excuse me, sir. First class is for premium passengers only. You need to move to coach." Ethan held up his boarding pass calmly. "Ma'am, this is my assigned seat, 2A." Collins barely glanced at the ticket. Her dismissive laugh carried across the cabin. "That's obviously a mistake. Let me see some ID." Ethan remained perfectly calm, retrieving his driver's license. Collins examined it with theatrical suspicion, holding it at arm's length. "This doesn't match our passenger manifest. You'll need to take your actual assigned seat. Could you please check again? Ethan Hayes, confirmation number RT457991. Collins's fingers moved across her tablet, but her expression remained dismissive. "Sir, I've been doing this job for 12 years. I know when someone doesn't belong up here." A woman in seat 3B, Olivia Rodriguez, discreetly started live streaming on Instagram. Her phone captured every word and gesture as the situation unfolded. Olivia Rodriguez's live stream was gaining viewers rapidly. Comments began flooding in. "This is disgusting. Document everything. Call the captain." Her follower count climbed as viewers shared the unfolding drama. 7 minutes until takeoff. Ethan pulled out his smartphone, displaying his digital boarding pass. The seat assignment was crystal clear. 2A First Class Premium Select. Collins waved it away without looking. "Anyone can fake those digital tickets. I need to see your actual credit card receipt." "Ma'am, I shouldn't need to prove my right to sit in a seat I legitimately purchased. Look, I'm trying to help you avoid embarrassment here. Just take any available coach seat and we'll sort this out after takeoff." A male passenger in 4A attempted to be helpful. Maybe he used miles to upgrade at the last minute. Collins's response was sharp and revealing. "Those upgrades go to our frequent flyers, real business travelers who actually belong in premium cabins." Ethan's hand moved briefly to his jacket pocket, where something metallic caught the cabin lighting. He didn't remove it yet, instead choosing to remain patient. 5 minutes until takeoff. The situation escalated when Collins called her supervisor, Michael Chen, over the intercom. The captain's voice crackled through the speakers. "Flight attendants, prepare for departure." Chen approached with visible annoyance at the delay. "What's the problem here, Brenda? This passenger claims he belongs in first class. I've checked multiple times. He's definitely not on our premium passenger list." Ethan's voice remained steady and professional. "I'm Ethan Hayes. My ticket clearly indicates seat 2A." Chen took the boarding pass, studying it with the same skeptical expression his subordinate had shown. This could be a system printing error. Let me check. Our manifest shows 2A assigned to E. Hayes, CEO of Hayes Dynamics." The cabin fell completely silent. Collins's face flushed red with embarrassment, but she doubled down instead of backing down. "That's obviously not him. A CEO would arrive in our premium boarding group wearing appropriate business attire. 3 minutes until takeoff. Olivia's Instagram Live had reached 847 viewers, with the number climbing rapidly. Comments exploded across her screen. "She's about to get fired. This is career suicide. Keep recording everything." The businessman in 1C was now recording on TikTok, providing live commentary to his growing audience. His phone captured Ethan's composed demeanor, contrasted against Collins's increasingly aggressive stance. "Sir, I'm asking you one final time to take an available coach seat. We have a departure scheduled to maintain." Ethan reached toward his jacket pocket again, his fingers closing around something substantial. Instead of revealing it immediately, he nodded calmly. "I understand your position completely. However, I'd like to speak with the captain before we proceed further." Collins's eyes narrowed dangerously. "The captain doesn't handle seating disputes. That's my responsibility, and my decision is final." The tension in the cabin was becoming palpable. Other passengers were pulling out phones now, sensing something significant was about to happen. The live stream viewers multiplied as people shared the video across social platforms. "Look, we're delaying an entire aircraft because you refuse to accept reality. I'm calling security right now." Ethan checked his expensive watch quietly. 2 minutes until scheduled takeoff. That's certainly your choice to make. But I think you might want to make one phone call first. To who exactly? Ethan's smile was subtle but confident. To your corporate office. Ask them about the Hayes Dynamics maintenance contract we signed last month. Collins's hand froze halfway to her radio. Something in Ethan's tone had fundamentally shifted. The quiet confidence wasn't desperation or bluffing. It was absolute certainty. The pregnant pause stretched across the cabin like a taut wire. Olivia Rodriguez's viewers had climbed past 1,200, with shares multiplying exponentially. The hashtag #FlightFlight drama was already trending on multiple platforms. Chen stepped closer, sensing the conversation had taken an unexpected turn. "What maintenance contract are you referring to?" Ethan's eyes never left Collins's increasingly pale face. The $847 million annual maintenance contract between Hayes Dynamics and American Airlines. The agreement that directly employs 400 people across 12 states. Collins's tablet nearly slipped from her trembling hands. Her finger hovered uncertainly over the radio button as she began to comprehend the magnitude of her mistake. 1 minute past scheduled takeoff. The captain's voice crackled again with obvious irritation. "Flight attendants, I need immediate confirmation that we're ready for departure." Collins's finger trembled over her radio. The moment stretched endlessly, captured by multiple phone cameras throughout the cabin. Every micro-expression and hesitation was being documented in real time. Ethan reached into his jacket pocket one final time. He withdrew a black American Express Centurion card that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. But he also produced a small leather credential folder. Inside, clearly visible to Collins and Chen, was a corporate identification badge. Ethan Hayes, Chief Executive Officer, Hayes Dynamics. The same company whose logo appeared on critical engine components throughout American Airlines' entire domestic fleet. Collins's world shifted completely off its axis. The implications crashed over her like a tsunami. The revelation hit Collins like severe turbulence at cruising altitude. Her tablet screen confirmed her worst nightmare. Ethan Hayes was indeed the CEO of Hayes Dynamics, American Airlines' largest maintenance contractor, but instead of apologizing immediately, she chose to double down on her position. Anyone can fake identification these days. I've seen elaborate scams before. Her voice lacked conviction, now wavering with uncertainty. But pride and fear drove her to continue the confrontation, rather than admit her catastrophic error. Takeoff delayed 3 minutes and counting. Captain Miller's voice returned over the intercom, sharper and more irritated. Flight attendants, what is our current status? I need an immediate update. Chen grabbed Collins's arm firmly. Brenda, we need to resolve this situation right now. No Michael. I've encountered this exact scenario before. Fake IDs, counterfeit credit cards, elaborate cons. He's probably researched our passenger manifest and created convincing forgeries. Olivia Rodriguez's live stream had exploded past 2,000 active viewers. Comments flooded her screen faster than she could read. This is absolutely insane. Someone needs to stop this immediately. I'm never flying American again. Ethan remained positioned in the aisle, still holding his identification credentials. His phone was buzzing constantly with incoming calls, but he ignored them completely. The businessman in 1C was now standing to get better recording angles. Ma'am, I'm going to make this very simple for everyone involved. Call your operations center immediately. Ask for Janet Soto in corporate relations. Tell her Ethan Hayes needs to speak with her urgently. Collins's laugh was brittle and desperate. You actually think I'm falling for obvious name-dropping tactics, Janet Soto extension 4471. She handles our contract negotiations and partnership agreements. The specificity made Chen visibly uncomfortable. He recognized that level of detail wasn't typical of random passengers attempting scams. Brenda, maybe we should actually verify. I refuse to be manipulated by some elaborate con artist. Takeoff delayed 5 minutes. The captain's voice crackled with clear irritation. This is Captain Miller speaking. I need my cabin crew to resolve whatever situation is occurring immediately. Collins keyed her radio with shaking hands. Captain, we have a passenger who's refusing to move to his correctly assigned seat in coach. Ethan stepped forward calmly. Captain Miller, this is Ethan Hayes from Hayes Dynamics. I believe there's been a significant misunderstanding regarding my seating assignment. The intercom went completely silent for an uncomfortably long moment. Then, Mr. Hayes, this is unexpected to hear from you directly. Please give me exactly 2 minutes to sort this out. Collins's face went completely ashen. The captain not only recognized the name, but spoke with obvious familiarity and respect. The delay announcement echoed throughout the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, we're currently experiencing a brief operational delay. We anticipate being underway very shortly. Other passengers throughout the aircraft began pulling out their phones. The scene was being documented from multiple angles simultaneously. A teenage girl in coach had climbed onto her seat to record over the partition separating cabins. Takeoff delayed 7 minutes. Ethan's phone rang with an incoming call. The caller ID displayed Janet Soto, American Airlines Corporate. He answered on speakerphone so everyone could hear. Ethan, this is Janet calling. I just received word that you're experiencing some kind of issue on Flight 447. Collins's hands were visibly shaking now. The voice was genuine, the concern authentic, the familiarity undeniable. Hello, Janet. Yes, there appears to be some confusion regarding my seat assignment and documentation. Let me conference in Captain Miller immediately. Captain Ethan Hayes is one of our most valued strategic partners. Hayes Dynamics handles maintenance contracts for 37% of our entire domestic fleet. Captain Miller's voice was tight with obvious embarrassment. Mr. Hayes, I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. Let me speak with my crew immediately to resolve this situation. Collins backed against the galley wall, trapped. Chen stared at her with growing horror as the magnitude of her mistake became clear. The live stream viewers had climbed past 3,500, with shares accelerating exponentially across all social platforms. Janet Soto continued over the speaker. Ethan, just so you're aware, we renewed your Platinum Executive status last week. You should have priority boarding complimentary upgrades and dedicated customer service on all flights. I appreciate that information, Janet, but I believe there might be a more fundamental training issue that needs addressing here. Takeoff delayed 9 minutes. The captain's voice returned over the cabin intercom, now speaking directly to all passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, This is your captain speaking. We're currently resolving a customer service issue that should never have occurred in the first place. Flight attendants, please report to the cockpit immediately." Collins's radio crackled. "Collins and Chen to the flight deck immediately. This is not a request." But Collins stood frozen against the galley wall. The full magnitude of her career-ending mistake was finally sinking in. Olivia Rodriguez's live stream comments had turned brutal. "She's about to get fired live. This is career suicide in real time. Document everything for evidence." Ethan pocketed his phone calmly. "Ma'am, I want to be clear that I don't want anyone to lose their employment over this situation. Perhaps we can simply resolve it and move forward. No, I was doing my job correctly. I was protecting our premium passengers from people who don't belong here." "From what exactly, if I may ask?" The question hung in the cabin air like smoke. Collins's mouth opened and closed repeatedly, but no words emerged. The discriminatory implication was crystal clear to everyone listening and recording. Takeoff delayed 11 minutes. A new authoritative voice joined the conversation as a man in an expensive business suit walked rapidly down the jet bridge. "Mr. Hayes, I'm Daniel Rossi, station manager for this terminal. I need to speak with you immediately." Rossi's sudden arrival sent ripples of tension throughout the cabin. This situation was clearly escalating far beyond a simple seating dispute. His face was flushed red sweat beading despite the air conditioning. "Mr. Rossi, I'm confident we can resolve this situation quickly and professionally. Sir, on behalf of American Airlines Corporation, I want to personally apologize. This behavior is absolutely unacceptable and doesn't represent our company values." Collins found her voice desperately. "Dan, I was following established protocols. We can't just allow anyone to claim premium seating without proper verification." "Brenda, stop talking immediately. Do not say another word." The harshness in Rossi's voice silenced her completely. Olivia Rodriguez adjusted her phone angle to capture his expression of pure panic mixed with damage control urgency. Rossi continued with obvious desperation. "Mr. Hayes, I've just finished speaking with our CEO personally. She asked me to extend her sincere apologies and ensure you receive our absolute highest level of service." The businessman in 1C whispered to his TikTok camera. "The CEO is personally involved now. This woman's career is completely finished. Takeoff delayed 13 minutes. Ethan glanced at his expensive watch again. "Gentlemen, I genuinely appreciate all the attention, but I do have a critical board meeting scheduled in Miami. Perhaps we could expedite this resolution?" Rossi nodded frantically, like a bobblehead. "Of course, absolutely. Brenda, escort Mr. Hayes to his assigned seat immediately and provide him with anything he requires for this flight." Collins stood completely paralyzed. Her 12-year career was dissolving in real-time broadcast live to thousands of viewers worldwide. The weight of years of service was collapsing under 6 minutes of unconscious bias. "I can't do it. You can't do what exactly." Rossi's voice was steel-wrapped in barely controlled fury. "I can't admit that I was wrong about this. The brutal honesty was devastating to witness." Olivia Rodriguez's viewers surged past 5,000 active watchers. The hashtag flight discrimination was trending nationally. Major news outlets were already picking up the story from viral social media clips. Ethan stepped closer to Collins, his voice gentle but absolutely firm. "Ma'am, we all make mistakes in life. The real question is what we choose to do next." But Collins's next words would seal her fate permanently. "I don't make mistakes about this. I know exactly who belongs in first class and who doesn't belong there." The cabin went completely dead silent. Even the background engine noise seemed to fade away. Rossi's face turned purple with rage. Captain Miller's voice crackled over the intercom. "That's enough. Security personnel to Gate A7 immediately." Collins had just declared war on corporate accountability itself. There would be no coming back from this moment. Security officers boarded the aircraft with practiced efficiency, but Ethan raised his hand calmly before they could approach Collins. His next revelation would completely reshape everything everyone thought they understood about this confrontation. "Gentlemen, there's something critically important I need to share before this situation proceeds any further." Daniel Rossi paused mid-gesture toward the security team. Mr. Hayes Ethan reached into his leather briefcase, withdrawing not additional identification, but a thin manila folder containing documents that would turn Collins's world completely upside down. 3 weeks ago, Hayes Dynamics was contracted by American Airlines to conduct a comprehensive systematic audit of customer service standards across all domestic routes. Rossi's face drained of all color instantly. An audit of what exactly? Specifically, we were contracted to test for discriminatory practices in premium cabin access procedures. This particular flight was designated as a controlled test scenario. The revelation hit the cabin like lightning striking twice. Olivia Rodriguez's live stream viewers exploded past 8,000 as she zoomed in on the official documents Ethan was displaying. The American Airlines corporate letterhead was clearly visible, along with authentic executive signatures. Collins's legs gave out completely. She collapsed into the nearest jump seat, her face buried in her hands. "No, that's completely impossible." Ethan continued, his voice maintaining calm authority while delivering devastating information. "The audit was specifically requested by your own board of directors following 17 formal discrimination complaints filed last quarter. All incidents involved passengers of color being denied access to premium seating they had legitimately purchased." Rossi was frantically texting someone on his phone. His hands trembled visibly as he typed urgent messages. Captain Miller's voice crackled again. "Mr. Rossi, I need an immediate comprehensive briefing on what's happening in my cabin." "The test parameters were deliberately simple," Ethan explained to the growing crowd of passengers recording with their devices. "A qualified passenger of color attempts to access their legitimately purchased first-class seat. We document the response process and any discriminatory behavior patterns." Collins's voice was barely audible. "You deliberately set me up for failure." "No, ma'am. I simply provided you with multiple opportunities to do the right thing. The choices you made were entirely your own." The teenage girl recording from Coach called out clearly. "So you're like a secret shopper for discrimination?" Ethan smiled slightly for the first time. "Something very similar to that concept. But instead of rating food service quality, we're auditing human dignity and corporate compliance." Takeoff delayed 16 minutes. Rossi's phone buzzed with an incoming call. The caller identification read, "Corporate CEO Laura Maxwell." His face went completely ashen as he answered. "Yes, ma'am. Yes, he's here with us. The audit it's happening right now. No, ma'am, it's not going well at all." Collins looked up from the jump seat with red-rimmed eyes. "Daniel, please tell me this is some kind of elaborate joke." Rossi covered his phone with his palm. "Brenda, you just failed the most important test of your entire career on camera in front of 8,000 people watching this live." The documents Ethan held told the complete story in devastating detail. Hayes Dynamics had been contracted not just for aircraft maintenance, but for comprehensive operational consulting. The discrimination audit was phase 1 of a 3-phase diversity and inclusion overhaul. The contract stipulates very clearly, Ethan read directly from the official paperwork, that employees who demonstrate discriminatory behavior during testing phases will be subject to immediate disciplinary action up to and including termination. Collins's supervisor, Michael Chen, stepped forward desperately. "Mr. Hayes, I attempted to intervene appropriately. I recognized her behavior was becoming inappropriate." "You did indeed, Mr. Chen. That's specifically noted in my preliminary report. You attempted to de-escalate the situation and showed appropriate concern for customer service standards. The businessman in 1C was providing live narration for his rapidly growing TikTok audience. This is absolutely incredible. The guy was actually testing them the entire time. She had absolutely no idea she was being systematically audited. Olivia Rodriguez's Instagram Live was approaching 10,000 viewers. Comments flooded in continuously. This is genius-level corporate accountability. She played herself completely justice in real time. Takeoff delayed 18 minutes. Rossi finished his call and approached Ethan with obvious desperation. "Sir, I've just finished speaking with our CEO directly. She's requesting an immediate emergency conference call with you and our entire executive leadership team. Of course, I'd be happy to participate. But first, I believe Ms. Collins deserves to understand the full scope of her current situation." Ethan turned to Collins, who remained slumped in the jump seat like a deflated balloon. Her career was crumbling in real time, but he wasn't finished with his revelations. "Ma'am, the audit parameters were extremely specific and comprehensive. We documented not just the initial denial, but your response to reasonable evidence, your willingness to seek supervisory support, and your treatment of the passenger throughout the entire process." Collins looked up with desperate eyes. What exactly did I do wrong here? The question hung in the air like a confession of complete ignorance. Ethan consulted his detailed notes methodically. You denied valid documentation 4 separate times. You refused to check the passenger manifest when specifically requested. You made assumptions based purely on appearance rather than evidence. You escalated conflict instead of de-escalating. And most critically, you stated explicitly, and I quote directly, "I know who belongs in first class and who doesn't." Each point landed like a physical blow to Collins's composure. The passengers recording were capturing every word of this systematic dismantling. This wasn't just about one flight attendant's career anymore. It was about systematic change happening in real time. Takeoff delayed 20 minutes. The captain's voice returned with a different tone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're currently experiencing an extended operational delay due to a customer service audit in progress. We appreciate your patience as we work to improve our service standards for all passengers." Even Captain Miller was now part of the coordinated process. The entire situation had been carefully orchestrated, but Collins's responses were entirely authentic and unscripted. Ethan closed the official folder carefully. The positive news, Ms. Collins, is that this audit creates a genuine opportunity for learning and professional growth. The question now is whether you're prepared to acknowledge what happened here and commit to meaningful change. Collins's voice was completely hollow. You recorded everything that happened. The passengers recorded everything through social media. My role was simply to create controlled conditions for authentic behavioral responses. Rossi's phone buzzed again, insistently. He glanced at the screen, and his face went even paler. "Mr. Hayes, our stock price is already moving based on social media coverage of this incident. We need to resolve this situation immediately." The stakes were becoming crystal clear to everyone involved. This wasn't just about one employee's discriminatory behavior. It was about corporate reputation, stock prices, and public trust. The audit had revealed systematic problems that demanded immediate, comprehensive action. Ethan nodded to Rossi professionally. "Then let's discuss what happens next." Collins realized with dawning horror that her response to this audit would determine not just her own career fate, but potentially the future of customer service training across the entire airline industry. The victim had become the judge, and judgment was about to be systematically rendered. The aircraft cabin transformed into an impromptu executive boardroom as Ethan Hayes opened his laptop and connected directly to American Airlines' emergency conference system. The screen flickered to life, revealing CEO Laura Maxwell and 5 other senior executives gathered in the Dallas headquarters crisis management room. "Ethan, good to see you under these circumstances," Maxwell said, though her expression conveyed anything but pleasure. "I understand we have a significant situation developing." Daniel Rossi positioned himself strategically where he could monitor both the screen and the cabin full of recording passengers. Brenda Collins remained slumped in the jump seat, staring at the floor in complete defeat. Olivia Rodriguez's live stream had reached 15,000 active viewers, with major news networks already requesting permission to broadcast her footage. "Laura, the situation is exactly what we contracted Hayes Dynamics to provide." Ethan replied, his voice carrying unmistakable corporate authority. "A comprehensive audit of systematic customer service discrimination patterns. Unfortunately, the preliminary results exceed our worst-case scenario projections." The executives on screen shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs. Chief Operations Officer Mark Sato leaned forward. "Ethan, can we please discuss the specific details privately? This is rapidly becoming a public relations catastrophe." Ethan gestured toward the passengers still actively recording. "Mark, the audit parameters specifically called for real-world testing conditions. These passengers are witnessing completely authentic customer service responses. That's precisely the point of systematic auditing." Flight delay 25 minutes. Maxwell took control of the conversation with obvious urgency. "What are your preliminary findings and recommendations?" Ethan consulted his tablet, reading directly from his comprehensive audit report. Employee Collins denied valid boarding documentation 4 separate times. Demonstrated clear systematic bias based purely on passenger appearance. Escalated conflict unnecessarily and explicitly stated discriminatory intent. When supervisory intervention occurred, she refused to acknowledge error or modify inappropriate behavior. The financial numbers on screen told a devastating story in real time. Chief Financial Officer Jessica Bell spoke with barely controlled panic. "Ethan, we're seeing immediate negative market reaction. Our stock price is down 3% in just the last hour. Social media sentiment analysis is overwhelmingly negative across all platforms." Collins finally looked up with tear-filled eyes. "They're discussing stock prices because of my actions." Ethan nodded gravely. "Ms. Collins, American Airlines processes over 200 million passengers annually. Customer service failures don't just affect individual travelers. They directly impact shareholder value, employee morale, and entire industry reputation." Rossi's tablet displayed real-time social media analytics. Flight discrimination had generated 47,000 mentions in the past hour alone. The video clips were being shared across every conceivable platform, with commentary from civil rights organizations, business leaders, and celebrities. Maxwell's voice crackled through the speakers with obvious strain. "Ethan, what are your specific recommendations for immediate corrective action?" Ethan stood addressing both the screen and the cabin full of witnesses simultaneously. "The audit reveals fundamental systematic training deficiencies. Your current customer service protocols completely lack specific anti-discrimination guidelines. Employee Collins's behavior strongly suggests this isn't an isolated incident." Flight delay 28 minutes. The data Ethan presented was absolutely devastating. Hayes Dynamics' preliminary audit had identified disturbing patterns across 17 different American Airlines routes over the past 6 months. Passengers of color were 340% more likely to face challenges accessing premium seating, even with completely valid documentation. The financial impact potential is extremely significant. Ethan continued methodically. Discrimination lawsuits cost airlines an average of $2.3 million per individual incident. Negative social media campaigns can reduce route bookings by 15 to 20% immediately. The Hayes Dynamics contract includes specific provisions for immediate corrective action implementation. Collins's voice cracked desperately. "You're going to completely destroy my career over one mistake." Ethan turned to face her directly with unwavering eye contact. "Ma'am, this wasn't one isolated mistake. This was a systematic series of choices that violated company policy, federal regulations, and basic human dignity principles. The question now is whether American Airlines will address systematic problems or continue enabling discriminatory behavior." The executives on screen were clearly in full crisis management mode. Chief Legal Officer Angela Soto spoke very carefully. "Ethan, what specific corrective actions does your contract legally require?" Ethan opened his briefcase and withdrew a thick document bound in professional blue leather. The Hayes Dynamics contract with American Airlines was comprehensive, covering not just maintenance services, but operational consulting across all customer-facing departments. Section 12, subsection C, mandates immediate disciplinary action for any employees who demonstrate discriminatory behavior during official audit phases. Section 15 requires implementation of enhanced training protocols within exactly 30 days of audit completion. Maxwell leaned closer to her camera with obvious tension. "And if we don't comply with those contractual requirements, the contract allows Hayes Dynamics to terminate all maintenance agreements immediately. That would ground 63% of your domestic fleet within 48 hours maximum. Flight delay, 32 minutes. The ultimatum landed like a nuclear bomb in the cabin. American Airlines literally couldn't operate without Hayes Dynamics' extensive maintenance contracts. Ethan had engineered a position of absolute leverage, and he was using it systematically to force industry-wide change. Rossi's phone was buzzing constantly with urgent calls from corporate communications, legal affairs, and crisis management teams. The story was spreading beyond social media into mainstream news coverage rapidly. "There's additional information you need to understand," Ethan continued relentlessly. "The audit contract includes specific performance metrics that must be met to avoid substantial financial penalties. Current preliminary results show a 73% failure rate in appropriate customer service responses to systematic discrimination testing. The financial implications were staggering to everyone involved." Based on the contract terms, Ethan was systematically outlining American Airlines faced potential penalties exceeding $127 million if systematic improvements weren't implemented immediately. Collins stood up slowly, swaying slightly. "Mr. Hayes, what exactly happens to me personally?" Ethan consulted his tablet professionally. "That depends entirely on American Airlines' demonstrated commitment to meaningful change. The audit contract specifies that employees who demonstrate a genuine willingness to learn and improve can be retained with appropriate training and ongoing supervision." Maxwell's voice carried new desperation. "Ethan, what would completely satisfy your audit contractual requirements? First, immediate implementation of comprehensive anti-discrimination training for all customer-facing employees. Second, complete revision of customer service protocols to include specific bias prevention measures. Third, establishment of an independent passenger advocacy system to address future discrimination complaints transparently. Flight delay, 35 minutes. The businessman in 1C was providing live commentary to his rapidly growing TikTok audience. This is corporate accountability happening in real time. He's not just exposing the problem systematically, he's forcing the complete solution. Olivia Rodriguez's Instagram Live had reached 22,000 active viewers. Major news outlets were contacting her directly, requesting permission to broadcast her footage nationally. The story was becoming headline news in real time. Ethan continued reading from the comprehensive contract. The audit also requires public acknowledgement of systematic failures and commitment to transparent reporting of all future discrimination incidents. Maxwell closed her eyes in obvious defeat. Public acknowledgement meant admitting corporate fault, potentially exposing American Airlines to additional lawsuits and regulatory scrutiny. Furthermore, Ethan added with quiet authority, the contract specifies that individual employees who demonstrate discriminatory behavior must complete 40 hours of additional training or face immediate termination. Collins's face went completely pale. 40 hours of training. Unpaid training conducted entirely on your personal time with certification required to maintain employment status. The terms were harsh, but systematically fair. Ethan had structured the audit to create meaningful consequences that would drive authentic change rather than cosmetic public relations fixes. Flight delay, 38 minutes. Maxwell made her final decision with obvious reluctance. We will comply with all contractual requirements immediately. Ms. Collins will be suspended pending successful completion of training requirements. Mr. Rossi will oversee immediate implementation of new systematic protocols. Rossi nodded frantically, like his career depended on it. Absolutely, Laura. We'll have new comprehensive training materials ready within 72 hours maximum. Ethan closed his laptop with quiet satisfaction. Excellent. I'll have my complete audit report finished within 48 hours. The public component will be released simultaneously with your corporate statement. The cabin buzzed with nervous energy as passengers processed what they witnessed firsthand. This wasn't just about one flight attendant's unconscious bias. It was about corporate accountability, enforced through strategic leverage and systematic consequences. Collins looked up one final time with desperate hope. Mr. Hayes, do you honestly think I can learn from this experience? Ethan's response would determine not just her personal future, but set the tone for American Airlines' entire cultural transformation. Ma'am, that's entirely up to your willingness to change. The transformation began immediately and systematically. Within hours of Ethan Hayes' audit conclusion, American Airlines initiated the most comprehensive customer service overhaul in corporate history. The changes weren't cosmetic public relations gestures. They were systematic, measurable, and designed to prevent future discrimination permanently. Brenda Collins's suspension became effective the moment Flight 447 finally departed for Miami, nearly 4 hours behind schedule. But rather than simply terminating her employment immediately, American Airlines chose a different path, one that would serve as a model for the entire aviation industry. 72 hours post-incident, Collins reported to the American Airlines Training Center in Dallas, joining 43 other employees who had demonstrated bias during Hayes Dynamics' broader systematic audit. The intensive program wasn't designed as punishment. It was complete professional reconstruction. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a nationally renowned diversity consultant, led the comprehensive training program. We're not here to shame anyone or assign blame, she told the assembled group. We're here to understand how unconscious bias affects real people and learn concrete tools to do better consistently. Collins's first assignment was watching her own behavior on the viral video, which had now been viewed over 2.3 million times across all social platforms. The experience was brutal, but absolutely necessary for growth. I can see it clearly now, she admitted during a group therapy session. Every single assumption I made was based purely on appearance, not evidence. I didn't even listen to what he was actually saying. The training included intensive role-playing exercises, implicit bias testing, and direct conversations with passengers who had experienced discrimination firsthand. Collins met with 3 passengers of color who shared their personal stories of being questioned, denied services, and made to feel unwelcome in spaces they had legitimately paid to access. 1 week post-incident, American Airlines released its comprehensive public statement, drafted with input from Hayes Dynamics and reviewed by civil rights organizations. CEO Laura Maxwell didn't just acknowledge the specific incident, she owned responsibility completely. The behavior demonstrated by our employee on Flight 447 represents a systematic failure of our training, our culture, and our fundamental commitment to treating every passenger with dignity and respect, Maxwell announced during a press conference. We are implementing immediate comprehensive changes to ensure this never happens again. The systematic changes were comprehensive and measurable. New protocol implementation. All boarding pass challenges must be documented and reviewed by supervisors immediately. Premium cabin access disputes require secondary verification from gate agents. Employee performance evaluations now include systematic bias assessment metrics. Customer service representatives receive monthly discrimination awareness training. Technology integration. Hayes Dynamics developed a revolutionary new application called Service Equity Monitor that allows passengers to report discrimination incidents in real time. The reports are reviewed by independent auditors and publicly tracked on American Airlines' website for transparency. Collins completed her intensive 40-hour training program and returned to work under strict probationary status. Her first flight back was deliberately challenging a route with diverse passengers and multiple premium cabin bookings. "Good morning, sir. Welcome aboard today," she said warmly to a young black man in a Harvard Business School sweatshirt approaching first class. "Can I help you locate your seat?" He displayed his boarding pass confidently, 1A. Collins's new training immediately activated. "Perfect. You're right here in our premium cabin. Can I get you anything before takeoff?" The interaction was smooth, natural, and documented by the Service Equity Monitor system. Collins was systematically learning to see passengers as individuals rather than assumptions based on appearance. 2 weeks post-incident, the ripple effects extended far beyond American Airlines' corporate boundaries. United, Delta, and Southwest all announced their own comprehensive bias training initiatives. The Federal Aviation Administration launched an industry-wide review of customer service protocols. Ethan Hayes appeared on CNBC to discuss the audit program's systematic success. "This was never about destroying individual careers," he explained to the national audience. "It was about creating meaningful accountability." Brenda Collins is becoming one of our most effective advocates for change because she experienced genuine transformation rather than just punishment. The data supported his assessment completely. Collins's customer service ratings had improved dramatically since returning to work. Passengers specifically praised her attentiveness and professionalism. More importantly, she had become a mentor for other employees struggling with unconscious bias. 1 month post-incident, the Service Equity Monitor application processed its 1,000th discrimination report. 93% of complaints were resolved within 24 hours through the new systematic protocols. Customer satisfaction scores for premium services increased by 34% system-wide. Collins was featured prominently in American Airlines' internal newsletter, sharing her transformation story with 130,000 employees worldwide. "I learned that questioning someone's right to be somewhere says more about me than about them," she wrote. "Every passenger deserves respect and dignity, regardless of what they look like or how they're dressed." The financial impact was overwhelmingly positive. Despite initial stock price drops, American Airlines shares recovered and reached new highs as customer satisfaction improved measurably. The company avoided an estimated $47 million in potential discrimination lawsuits through proactive policy changes. 3 months post-incident, Hayes Dynamics' systematic audit model was adopted by 4 other major airlines. The comprehensive approach to identifying and addressing bias became an industry standard, preventing countless future incidents of discrimination. Collins received her first promotion in 3 years, advancing to lead flight attendant. Her transformation from unconscious bias to active advocate proved that people could change fundamentally when given proper tools and accountability. The legacy of Flight 447 wasn't punishment or career destruction. It was proof that systematic change was possible when corporations faced real consequences for discriminatory behavior. Collins's journey from villain to advocate demonstrated that growth was possible for individuals willing to confront their biases honestly. Ethan Hayes's strategic audit had achieved something remarkable, turning a moment of discrimination into a catalyst for industry-wide transformation that would benefit millions of future passengers. 6 months after Flight 447, the story had evolved from viral outrage to sustainable systematic change. The impact reached far beyond one airline, one employee, or even one industry. It became a blueprint for corporate accountability that organizations worldwide began adopting systematically. Ethan Hayes stood before the National Association of Corporate Executives, delivering the keynote address on audit-driven cultural change. The audience included CEOs, diversity officers, and policy experts from Fortune 500 companies across multiple sectors. The power of systematic auditing isn't in catching bad actors, Ethan explained to the attentive audience. It's in creating environments where good actors can thrive and problematic behaviors are addressed before they become systematic crises. The Hayes Dynamics model had been implemented by organizations ranging from hospitality chains to technology companies. The key insight was elegantly simple. Real change required real consequences applied systematically rather than sporadically. Brenda Collins sat in the audience, now serving as American Airlines Customer Experience Advocate. Her role involved training employees, reviewing service complaints, and ensuring the reforms remained effective long-term. The transformation had been genuine. Data showed her passenger satisfaction scores were now among the highest in the company. "I never imagined I'd be grateful for the worst day of my career," Collins reflected during a panel discussion. "But that audit forced me to confront behaviors I didn't even realize were harmful. The training didn't just change how I work, it fundamentally changed how I see people." The Service Equity Monitor application had processed over 15,000 reports across participating airlines, with 97% resolved satisfactorily. More importantly, the number of discrimination incidents had dropped by 68% industry-wide as employees received better training and faced clear accountability measures. The broader impact. The viral videos from Flight 447 had been viewed over 12 million times, but their reach extended far beyond entertainment. Business schools began using the case study to teach corporate accountability. Civil rights organizations pointed to the incident as proof that systematic change was possible when financial leverage was applied strategically. Olivia Rodriguez, whose Instagram Live had captured the original confrontation, was hired by a social justice advocacy organization to document corporate bias testing. Her platform grew to over 500,000 followers who actively shared stories of discrimination and corporate accountability. The teenage girl who had recorded from Coach became a youth activist speaking at high schools about the power of documentation and social media in driving change. Her TikTok video from the flight had been viewed 8.7 million times, inspiring other young people to speak up when they witnessed discrimination. These real-life stories represent more than individual transformation. They demonstrate how strategic accountability can reshape entire systems. The Flight 447 incident proved that stories of discrimination could become catalysts for meaningful change when proper leverage was applied systematically. Ethan Hayes' approach had been copied by consulting firms worldwide. The Hayes method of systematic bias auditing was being implemented in healthcare, retail, banking, and education. The key was creating financial consequences that made discrimination too expensive to ignore completely. The model worked because it addressed both individual behavior and systematic enablement simultaneously. Employees like Collins could change when given proper training and accountability. Corporations could transform when faced with real financial consequences for discriminatory practices. Your role in this movement. The power of flight. 447's story lies not just in what happened, but in what it represents: the possibility that each of us can be an agent of change when we witness injustice systematically. When you see discrimination happening, document it completely. Use your phone, your voice, your platform to shine a light on unacceptable behavior. Olivia Rodriguez's live stream wasn't just entertainment. It was evidence that created systematic accountability. Share these stories widely. Every time you share a video like this, you're expanding the circle of awareness exponentially. You're making it harder for organizations to ignore systematic problems. You're showing other victims that they're not alone in their experiences. Support businesses that demonstrate genuine commitment to equity. Ethan Hayes used economic leverage to force change. Your purchasing decisions carry similar power. Companies that invest in bias training and accountability deserve your business and loyalty. Most importantly, examine your own biases honestly. Collins's transformation began with honest self-reflection about her assumptions. We all carry unconscious assumptions that affect how we treat others. The question isn't whether you have biases, it's whether you're willing to acknowledge and address them systematically. The continuing story. The stories of discrimination that once ended in frustration and powerlessness now have a different trajectory. The Flight 447 model shows that systematic change is possible when victims have leverage, organizations face consequences, and individuals commit to growth. Brenda Collins's journey from unconscious bias to active advocacy proves that transformation is possible at any stage of life or career. Ethan Hayes' strategic approach demonstrates that power wielded thoughtfully can create lasting change rather than temporary punishment. These life stories matter because they show us what's possible when we refuse to accept discrimination as inevitable. They inspire us to act when we witness injustice and to demand better from the institutions that serve us. The next time you witness discrimination, whether in an airplane, a restaurant, a workplace, or anywhere else, remember Flight 447. Remember that documenting injustice, demanding accountability, and supporting victims can create ripple effects that transform entire industries systematically. Your voice matters. Your documentation matters. Your refusal to accept discrimination as normal matters tremendously. Comment below with your own experiences of witnessing or experiencing discrimination. Share this video with others who need to see that change is possible. Subscribe to stay updated on more stories of accountability and transformation. Together, we can ensure that the real-life stories of tomorrow are about justice prevailing, not injustice being ignored. The flight may have been delayed, but the destination, a more equitable world, is worth the journey.